Precisely at 9:47 p.m. yesterday night, as you were likely sleeping or scrolling across your phone, 17 of the quite powerful bankers within America received the encrypted message which made their blood run cold. I have seen what that message said, and by the time I finish reading it for you, you will understand why everything you thought you knew about your money, your savings, and your financial future is about to change forever. However, first, I need you to understand something. That which I am about to share with you is not a prediction. It is not speculation. It is not any conspiracy theory I read across the internet. This is happening right now today, Wednesday, January 2026, and if you click away from this video before I finish explaining what that encrypted message contained, you will be walking blind into the largest financial storm of your lifetime. The message was urgent session, instant attendance. Those 4 words triggered what is termed a Level 3 protocol at the Federal Reserve. Now, let me tell you why those 4 words should terrify you. During the past 20 years, a Level 3 protocol has only been activated triple times. The initial was September 2008, when Lehman Brothers collapsed and the whole global financial system almost died. The secondary was September 2019, when the repo market froze and banks virtually stopped lending to each other instantly. The subsequent was March 2020, when the pandemic crashed markets, and the Fed had to print $4 trillion within a matter of weeks merely to keep the system alive. Last night was the 4th time. Jerome Powell, the extremely powerful central banker upon the planet, merely triggered the financial equivalent of a nuclear alarm. And the reason is something which mainstream media will not tell you for weeks. Perhaps they will never tell you. Perhaps they are not allowed to tell you. Silver merely broke $200 an ounce. Now, wait. Before you think this is merely another video about precious metals, before you click away thinking you have heard this before, I need you to understand something. This is not about silver. Silver is merely the fuse. The bomb is your bank account. The bomb is your retirement fund. The bomb is the whole structure of the American financial system, and that fuse merely got lit. Welcome to Boring Currency Archive. Buckle up, because the next 30 minutes are going to change how you see everything. Now, I know some of you merely joined this channel. You do not know me. You do not know why you should trust what I am telling you. Fair enough, so let me give you a reason to stay. 3 months ago, on this exact channel, I told you that silver would break $100 by January. People laughed. They said I was crazy. They said the system was too controlled, too manipulated for that to ever happen. Check the comments on that video. Go ahead. Pause this video and check. I will wait. You see those comments now. You see who was laughing. They are not laughing anymore. I told you the death bag would detonate. I told you the COMEX would crack. I told you the paper price and the physical price would diverge so dramatically that the system would break. Everything I warned you about 3 months ago is happening right now, today, in real time. So when I tell you that the next 48 hours will determine whether your savings survive or evaporate, I am not guessing. I am reading the same playbook I have been reading for years, and that playbook says we are at the end of the game. Let me take you inside the Eccles building last night. Let me show you exactly what happened as America slept. At 9:47 p.m. Eastern Time, the encrypted communication was transmitted across the Federal Reserve as secure internal network to all 12 regional bank presidents. This was not a calendar invitation. This was not a polite request to join a meeting at your convenience. This was the direct order requiring instant virtual attendance. No delays, no excuses, no exceptions. Within 11 minutes, all 12 regional presidents were online. Within 14 minutes, Jerome Powell was addressing them. Within 20 minutes, the quite powerful financial officials within America were staring at their screens in complete silence, trying to process what they had just been told. The silver market had broken, not the paper market. The paper market was yet showing $79.60 per ounce. The paper market was yet pretending everything was normal. The paper market was yet lying. The physical market had broken. The Shanghai Gold Exchange, where actual silver changes hands between actual buyers and sellers, had closed the previous session at the yuan equivalent of $207 per ounce. Not futures, not options, not contracts, which would settle in cash. Physical metal, delivered in hand, $207. And here is the part which made those 17 bankers go pale. Chinese state. Owned enterprises had merely taken delivery of 47 million ounces in a single session. 47 million ounces of physical silver loaded onto planes and ships heading to Shanghai. The COMEX registered inventory as of that morning was 213 million ounces. So, do you understand what that means? Let me make it painfully clear. The Chinese merely demanded more silver than exists in American vaults. They demanded more than double what COMEX can deliver. They called the bluff. They showed up at the poker table and asked to see the cards, and the cards are not there. This is not a supply shortage. This is not a temporary squeeze. This is the exposure of the fraud that has been running for decades. The COMEX has been selling paper silver that does not exist. They have been promising delivery they cannot make. They have been setting prices for a commodity they do not actually have. And now the world knows. But here is where it gets so much worse. Here is the part which made Jerome Powell call that emergency meeting. See, the banks which are short silver do not merely owe silver. They owe a web of interconnected derivatives that makes 2008 look like a warm-up exercise. When a bank shorts silver, they do not merely sell a simple contract. They hedge with interest rate swaps. They hedge the currency exposure with Forex derivatives. They buy protection through credit default swaps. One silver short position spawns dozens of related positions across multiple asset classes and multiple counterparties. When Lehman Brothers collapsed, their total derivatives exposure was around $600 billion. That was enough to almost end the global financial system. The current silver short position, when you factor in all the interconnected derivatives, all the hedges, all the counterparty exposure, represents over $1.2 trillion. $1.2 trillion exposed underwater, about to detonate. And Jerome Powell has 48 hours to stop it. Now, I need you to do something for me. I need you to hit that subscribe button right now. Not because I want the numbers, not because it helps the algorithm, but because what I am about to tell you next is the kind of information which gets videos deleted. It is the kind of information which gets channels suppressed. If you want to stay informed about what is really happening, you need to make sure YouTube actually shows you my videos. Subscribe, hit the bell, turn on all notifications. Do it now. I will wait. Good. And now, let me tell you who is about to go bankrupt. I have been tracking what I call the death bag for over a year now. This is the concentrated short position held by a small group of major banks which have been suppressing silver prices since 2011. These banks have sold silver they do not own, promised delivery they cannot make, and manipulated prices to avoid being caught. As of this morning, the death bag contains 241 million ounces of short positions. At the Shanghai physical price of $207, these banks are underwater by $26 billion merely on their direct exposure. When you add the derivative exposure, the hedging exposure, the counterparty exposure, the total potential loss exceeds $100 billion. Let me name names because you deserve to know who is about to collapse. Deutsche Bank holds an estimated 45,000 short contracts at 5,000 ounces per contract. That is 225 million ounces of silver they owe. They do not have 225 million ounces. Nobody has 225 million ounces. Annual global silver production is only 800 million ounces. Deutsche Bank alone owes more than a quarter of all the silver mined across the whole world in an entire year. UBS inherited 32,000 short contracts when they absorbed Credit Suisse. They thought they were getting a bargain. They were actually swallowing a bomb. Those contracts are now so far underwater that UBS faces potential losses exceeding their whole market capitalization. HSBC holds 28,000 contracts. Barclays holds 20,000, so Citadine Rail holds 15,000. These are not small regional banks. These are some of the largest financial institutions in Europe, and they are all about to face margin calls they cannot meet. Now, here is the critical part. What happens when a major European bank cannot meet a margin call? I will tell you exactly what happens, because we have seen this movie before. In 2008, when Lehman could not meet its obligations, the counterparties panicked. They demanded collateral from everyone. The banks which dealt with Lehman started getting margin calls from their counterparties. Those banks had to sell assets to raise cash. The selling drove prices down. Lower prices triggered more margin calls. More margin calls forced more selling. It became a death spiral, a cascading collapse which spread from one institution to the next, from one asset class to the next, from one country to the next. Within weeks, the whole global financial system was on the edge of complete failure. We are about to see that death spiral again, except this time, the numbers are larger. This time, the interconnections are deeper. This time, the bomb is not in one bank. It is in dozens of banks across multiple continents. And this time, the new American administration is not interested in bailouts. Let me tell you about what happened yesterday, because yesterday changed everything. On the 20th of January, 2026, as the inauguration ceremonies were taking place in Washington, Donald Trump signed 3 executive orders which will be studied in history books for centuries. These orders did not get much media coverage. The press was focused on the pageantry, the speeches, the celebrations. But behind the scenes, 3 documents were signed which lit the fuse on the silver bomb. The initial executive order directed the Treasury Department to conduct a complete audit of the COMEX and all precious metals exchanges operating within the United States. Not a routine review, not a friendly inspection. A full forensic audit to be completed within 90 days. Now, think about what this means. For years, critics have alleged that COMEX operates with fractional reserves. They sell 100 ounces of paper silver for every 1 ounce of physical metal in their vaults. They assume nobody will ever actually demand delivery. They print paper claims on metal which does not exist. An official Treasury audit will expose this immediately. Every discrepancy, every missing ounce, every paper contract which cannot be settled, The fraud that has been running for decades will be documented in black and white by the United States government. The COMEX knows this audit is coming. The banks know this audit is coming. They have 90 days to either find the missing silver or admit it was never there. Where are they going to find 200 million ounces of silver that does not exist? The secondary executive order instructed the Department of Defense to begin strategic stockpiling of silver for national security purposes. Silver is critical for military technology, missile guidance systems, satellite communications, medical equipment for battlefield trauma, electronic warfare systems. The order authorized the Pentagon to acquire up to 100 million ounces of physical silver during the next 12 months, not paper contracts, physical metal delivered to military warehouses. Now, where is the Pentagon going to get 100 million ounces? The COMEX does not have it. The U.S. Mint cannot produce it. American mines only produce about 30 million ounces per year. The Pentagon is going to be competing directly with Chinese buyers on the global physical market, bidding up prices, draining supply. This single executive order added 100 million ounces of new demand to a market that was already in deficit. It is like throwing gasoline on a fire. The third executive order is the one which made Wall Street bankers physically ill as they read it. It directed the Department of Justice to investigate market manipulation in precious metals. Specifically, it mentioned spoofing, naked short selling, and coordinated price suppression. JP Morgan already paid $900 million in fines for precious metals manipulation. That case proved what we all suspected. The banks were actively, deliberately, criminally suppressing silver prices. But that fine was a joke. It was a cost of doing business. Nobody went to prison. The manipulation continued the next day. This executive order is different. It directs the DOJ to pursue criminal charges against individuals. Not merely institutions, it calls for prison time, not merely fines. It treats precious metals manipulation as the financial crime it actually is. The banks which are short silver are not merely facing bankruptcy, they are facing prosecution. The executives who authorize these positions are not merely facing job loss, they are facing prison. This is why there will be no bailout. Why would the new administration bail out the same banks they are trying to prosecute? Why would they spend taxpayer money to rescue institutions they believe committed crimes? The answer is they will not, and Jerome Powell knows it. This is why he called the emergency meeting. He is stuck. He cannot bail out the banks without Treasury cooperation, and Treasury is now run by people who want to prosecute those banks. He cannot let the banks fail without triggering systemic collapse. He has 48 hours to find a solution which does not exist. Let me tell you what Powell is considering right now. Let me take you inside that emergency meeting. Option 1 is a direct bailout. The Fed announces an emergency lending facility. They print however many billions are needed to let the short sellers cover their positions. The banks survive, the system holds together, the taxpayers get the bill. But this option is dead on arrival. The new Treasury Secretary has publicly stated opposition to any bailout that protects market manipulators. The new president merely signed an order directing prosecution of those same manipulators. A Fed bailout without Treasury cooperation would be instantly challenged, potentially blocked, and definitely become a political firestorm which destroys any remaining credibility the Fed has. Option 2 is a trading halt. The CFTC suspends all trading in silver futures. The market freezes. No more price discovery, no more margin calls. The bleeding stops. But this option is almost as bad. A trading halt would confirm for the whole world that American commodity markets are broken. It would permanently destroy confidence in COMEX pricing. It would accelerate the shift of price discovery to Shanghai. The dollar's status as the global reserve currency would take another devastating hit. Option 3 is controlled demolition. Let the short sellers fail, but provide liquidity to the broader system to contain the contagion. This is what free market advocates want. Let bad actors face consequences. Let price discovery happen naturally. Let the market clear. But this option carries enormous risk. If Deutsche Bank fails, their counterparties face losses. Those counterparties have their own counterparties. The cascade spreads. Within days, you could have a 2008-style global financial crisis. Option 4 is the nuclear option, force majeure. The Fed and Treasury jointly declare that extraordinary circumstances make it impossible to settle silver contracts at market prices. Contracts are settled in cash at a price determined by regulators, probably far below actual physical prices. This would be a default in everything but name. It would tell the world that American markets cannot be trusted, that paper contracts are worthless, that promises will be broken when the powerful find it convenient. But it might be the least bad option if the alternative is total collapse. Powell is weighing these options right now. He has 48 hours to decide. Every option has devastating consequences. There is no good choice. There is only the choice of who suffers and how much. Now, I need to tell you what happens to you within each of these scenarios because this is not abstract. This is not something happening to other people far away. This is your money, your savings, your future. If you hold physical silver right now, you own something real, something which cannot be printed, something which cannot be digitally frozen, something which does not depend on the solvency of any bank or the honesty of any exchange. Within every scenario, your physical silver retains value. Its purchasing power might fluctuate, but the metal itself does not disappear. If you hold paper silver across an ETF like SLV, you have a problem. Those ETFs do not hold enough physical silver to cover all their shares. They hold a combination of physical metal and paper contracts. If the paper market breaks, if COMEX declares force majeure, your ETF shares will be settled in cash at the price, which has nothing to do with what physical silver is actually worth. Let me explain this more clearly because I need you to understand. Imagine you thought you owned a house. You have a piece of paper which says you own a house. You pay taxes on that house. You have insurance on that house. Then one day you try to move in and discover 10 other people have the same piece of paper for the same house. There is only one house, but there are 10 claims on it. That is what is happening across the silver market right now. There is one pile of physical silver. There are dozens of claims on that pile. When everyone tries to collect at once, 9 out of 10 people discover their claim is worthless. If you hold your savings within a bank account, you face a different risk. Bank deposits are not money you own. They are loans you have made to the bank. If the bank fails, you become an unsecured creditor. You get paid after everyone else. Cyprus 2013 showed us exactly how this works. Depositors woke up one morning to discover that money they thought was safe had been confiscated to pay the bank. Debts. Could that happen here in America? 3 months ago, I would have said it was unlikely. Today, with European banks on the edge of collapse and interconnections spreading everywhere, I would not be so confident. If you hold your retirement within a pension fund, you might have exposure you do not even know about. Many pension funds hold precious metals exposure through ETFs. Those holdings are valued at COMEX paper prices. If paper prices collapse while physical prices explode, pension funds face massive losses on positions they thought were safe. Imagine you are a retired teacher in California. You worked 30 years. You did everything right. Your pension fund shows you have exposure to silver as an inflation hedge. Then one morning, you discover that the silver your pension fund thought it owned never actually existed. Your retirement merely took a 30% hit. This is not hypothetical. This is the math. This is what happens when paper claims exceed physical reality. Now, let me tell you about something else which is happening right now, something which mainstream media is completely ignoring. Russia announced yesterday that they are suspending all silver exports indefinitely. 40 million ounces of annual supply merely vanished from the global market, gone, not available at any price. India lifted import restrictions on silver. 1 billion people who traditionally buy silver for weddings and religious ceremonies are now buying for investment purposes. Demand merely increased by 50 to 100 million ounces per year. Mexico, the world's largest silver producer, is facing labor strikes. Workers want a share of the windfall as prices explode. Some mines have suspended operations. Supply is falling. The Pentagon is about to enter the market with the 100 million ounce purchase order. Samsung is securing 3-year forward contracts at any price. Apple has a team within Peru negotiating directly with miners. Every major industrial buyer upon the planet is scrambling to secure physical silver. They understand that the COMEX price is fiction. They are willing to pay Shanghai prices or higher to get actual metal. And here is what that means for you. If you want to buy physical silver today, you will not pay $79. That is the COMEX lie. You will pay somewhere between $120 and $180 per ounce. If you can find any at all. The U.S. Mint has effectively stopped producing silver eagles. They claim a shortage of blanks. The real reason is they cannot source silver at COMEX prices. Nobody can. Coin dealers are rationing sales. Premiums are $50 to $70 over spot. Wait times for delivery are weeks or months. Some dealers have stopped taking orders entirely because they have no metal to sell. The retail market has seized up. The industrial market is panicking. The paper market is lying. And the physical market is telling the truth. Now, I want to put this within historical perspective because some of you might think this cannot happen. You might think the authorities always find a way to maintain control. In 1971, the United States faced a similar crisis. Foreign governments were demanding gold for their dollars, as promised under the Bretton Woods Agreement. But there was not enough gold to satisfy the claims. The paper promises exceeded the physical reality. President Nixon had to admit the system was broken and devalue the dollar or break the promise. He broke the promise. In August 1971, Nixon closed the gold window. Dollars could no longer be exchanged for gold at any price. The promise America had made to the world was simply canceled. What happened to gold after that? It rose from $35 to $800 per ounce, a 23-fold increase. Silver rose from $1.5 to $50, a 33-fold increase. We are witnessing the same dynamic today. The paper price is a promise, the physical price is reality. When the gap becomes too wide, the promise breaks. The COMEX is about to break its promise. The only questions are how and when. Let me walk you through exactly what we expect during the next 48 hours. Today, Wednesday, the 21st of January, the Fed EIS Emergency Committee is meeting behind closed doors. They are assessing damage, modeling scenarios, trying to find an exit which does not exist. Tonight, there will be frantic communications between the Fed, Treasury, and the White House. The new administration will be briefed on just how bad this is. They will have to decide whether to authorize a bailout that contradicts everything they campaigned on, or let the banks burn and accept the consequences. Tomorrow, Thursday, the 22nd of January, the CFTC has an emergency session at 10 a.m. Eastern. They will decide whether to halt trading or let it continue. If they halt trading, they confirm to the world that American markets are broken. Physical prices explode internationally while the U.S. market sits frozen. Confidence within the dollar takes another hit if they let trading continue. The COMEX price gaps higher at the open, $80, $90, $100. The short sellers face margin calls they cannot meet, some default. The cascade begins. By Friday, we will know which path was chosen. The banks will be bailed out, or they will fail. The paper market will continue its lie, or it will admit the truth. The system will be preserved, or it will break. There is no good option. Every choice leads to pain. The only question is who feels that pain and how much. Now, before I finish, I need you to understand something important. What we are witnessing is not merely a silver crisis. Silver is simply the weak point where a much larger lie is being exposed. For decades, our financial system has operated on the assumption that paper promises are as good as physical reality, that a contract to deliver is the same as delivery itself, that prices set by exchanges reflect actual value. These were always lies. Convenient lies which allowed the system to function, lies which allowed banks to sell things they did not have, lies which allowed paper wealth to multiply far beyond physical reality. The total notional value of global derivatives exceeds $1 quadrillion. The total value of all physical assets on Earth is maybe 500 trillion. We have created paper claims on twice as much wealth as actually exists. Someone has to be told their claim is worthless. Not everyone can get paid. There is not enough real stuff to satisfy all the paper promises. Silver is the first market where this truth is being revealed, but it will not be the last. Gold will follow. Bonds will follow. The entire derivatives complex will eventually face the same reckoning. Too many paper claims, not enough real assets. The 48 hours we are living through right now are not merely about silver. They are about the beginning of a global repricing of reality over fiction. Some of you will be on the right side of this transition. You will hold real assets. You will preserve your purchasing power. You will protect your family. Some of you will be on the wrong side. You will hold paper claims which seem valuable today, but become worthless when the promises break. The choice is yours. I cannot make it for you. I am not a financial advisor, and nothing within this video is investment advice. But I can share information. I can help you understand what is happening. I can give you the knowledge to make informed decisions. That is why I do this. That is why I spend hours researching and creating these videos, because I believe you deserve to know the truth, even when that truth is uncomfortable. Jerome Powell has 48 hours. The banks have 48 hours. The system has 48 hours. Then we see what is real and what was always merely a promise. If this video helped you understand what is happening, share it with someone you care about, your family, your friends, anyone who has money within the system and deserves to know the truth. Like this video so YouTube shows it to more people. Subscribe if you have not already. Hit the notification bell so you do not miss my updates during the next 48 hours. I will be posting as events develop. This is Boring Currency Archive. Thank you for watching. Stay informed, stay prepared, and I will see you within the next video.